Hey guys, Enter the Stars, and welcome to this highly anticipated show. I'm really looking forward to this show. We got hosed yesterday by YouTube. They didn't send out hardly any notifications to the live shows. If you're new to the channel, just understand that we're going to be live pretty much every morning at the exact same time. So you don't need to wait for a notification. Just come to the channel and we'll be live 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, why are we looking at Pink Floyd, The Wall? Well, there's a few reasons for this. We're going to be looking at this musical film, Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. This came out in I want to say, well, I thought it was 82, but it looks like 1979. And this was like a full-length, actually, this is the song here, sorry. The film came out in 1982, and I think we have that featured over here as well. So we're going to be looking at that today. It's a full-length feature film, and we're going to be decoding that. But we're doing that because George, we'll call him Memorial Day George, shares the same name as Pink Floyd, obviously. And if you didn't know this yet, Floyd, or Pink Floyd, or the word Floyd, actually means gray, the color gray. Now, it's interesting because this color gray is the only color that does not appear, obviously, in the prism, right? The prism is basically from the cover of The Dark Side of the Moon. And let's pull it up here so I can show you this. There it is, from The Dark Side of the Moon. Different album, but you see that there's this prism, okay? And think about it. Dark Side of the Moon is gray, but yet gray is the only color not it actually means the word Floyd, and it is the only color not represented in the prism, okay? Now, in order to create this prism and rainbow effect by shooting a laser through the prism, the laser has to be a white light. So there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So, Another Brick in the Wall, I pulled out several timestamps that seem to relate exactly to what is going on in America right now. There's the color divide, protests, rioting, masks, fascism. All of this is playing out in this full-length film. Now, just before we get into this, and we're not gonna watch the entire film, so don't worry that we're going to be on here hours and hours. I pulled out timestamps, but I shared with you a couple shows ago that the facade of two particular buildings that stood in Manhattan, I told you that these facades were built as aluminum coated holographic ruled diffraction grating, RULED, diffraction grating, and that this technology actually replaced prisms. So remember, we're talking about prisms, right? And that this was a better method of creating holograms, bending light. So prism is the old technology, ruled diffraction grating is the new technology. Now, here's some images of ruled diffraction grating, and I believe that we are onto something very major here, and this could end up resulting in amazing new revelations regarding what happened on that fateful day in 2001. This is ruled diffraction grating. As you can see here, it looks very similar to the facade of the buildings, and people would complain when looking up at these buildings. They would get this interference pattern or this visual distortion when looking at the buildings from certain angles, and it could cause dizziness and disorientation. And that's because this was a ruled diffraction grating. Let's take a look at some more images of this. Now, what does all this mean? Well, when you shine a very powerful beam at an aluminum coated ruled diffraction grating, remember, they were coated in aluminum, well, light is bounced off and scattered. and you were able to project a very detailed hologram. Now, the lasers responsible for this are very, very, very powerful, and I believe that this was a twofold effect, or a twofold result that they got. You could also destroy something with one of these lasers, okay? Change its molecular structure, maybe even turn it into dust. So, this is Dennis Gabor, and you're going to see how all this fits into today's show as we progress on here. This is Dennis Gabor. He is called the grandfather of holograms. And he was spending a lot of time in New York at the end of his life. One particular man wrote a book about him called, not about him, but he was included in the book. The book was called Infinite Jest. And in that book, he called Dennis Gabor the Antichrist. Now, why would he call him the Antichrist? Here is the reference here. David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. Hal suggests that Dennis Gabor may very well have been the Antichrist. Well, here's a Reddit, and they talk about it. Dennis Gabor may very well have been the Antichrist. He was a scientist who was involved in inventing holograms. He was actually the grandfather of holograms. It goes deeper than that. Later in the book we read, everything's projected. They can do this with machines. They project to fool us. The pictures on the walls change, so we think we're going places. The real world's one room. This seems to be some kind of a coda to a comment about Gabor. And so, if you think about him being called the Antichrist and being the grandfather of projection, you have to wonder, will this appearance of the Antichrist be some kind of holographic projection? Now, Brookhaven National Labs, and we mentioned this in a previous video, and I'll link that video in the description of this video. Brookhaven National Labs was working on a laser powerful enough to make holograms using Gabor's technology. Yes, look at this article. This is from the New Scientist. This was back in 1982. And they were talking about Brookhaven National Labs. They were talking about Dennis Gabor, the grandfather of the laser. And not the laser, but the grandfather of holographic technology. Here you see his name appear. The high coherence of laser light makes life easier for the holographer, but a laser is not an absolute must. Dennis Gabor produced the first two-dimensional visible light holograms in the late 1940s without a laser, but the holography did not take off until 1962. See how all this dovetails into the construction of these buildings that came down? The time frame lines up perfectly. Then they go on to talk about Brookhaven National Laboratories in reference to this X-ray holography waits for laser light. At least some of the proposed experiments would be with a new accelerator at the Brookhaven National Laboratory, New York State, designed to produce synchrotron radiation around 3 nanometers in the soft X-ray region. One of the first things planned at Brookhaven will be a search for the predicted 3 nanometer nitrogen line in organic molecules. If that line is found, X-ray holography experiments presumably would follow with the Brookhaven synchrotron or other X-ray sources. So, I'm not making all this up, all right? You guys, the towers were a holographic screen. Ruled diffraction grating, coated in aluminum to better scatter the light. And the laser at Brookhaven may have doubled as a destruction device as well. So now you know why the one building that they built to replace the two that came down is a prism. They brought everything back full circle. Dark side of the moon. Now, could that new building be used one day to project an image of the Antichrist in New York? Well, They're on notice now. Now, here's what's interesting. Gabor was in Connecticut in 1973 when the buildings opened. Here's the article right here. Here's an article. This was from 1973. And as you can see right here, he got the George Washington Award. Let's pull this up. Dennis Gabor, winner of the 1971 Nobel Prize of Physics, inventor of holography, and the recipient of the George Washington Award of the American-Hungarian Studies Foundation, given annually, blah, blah, blah. Gabor is presently Professor Emeritus of Applied Electronic Physics at Imperial College of Science and Technology in London and staff scientist with CBS Laboratories in Stamford, Connecticut. So he was right there, right here, when these buildings were built. Here's another image of him and his story. Again, New Scientist. This is from 1988. He was writing in social issues, heading the Club of Rome study group that wrote The Age of Waste. In an article entitled Art and Leisure in the Age of Technology, he wrote, "Too much of the true creativity of our time has gone into science and technology. Perhaps it is not too late to remind these creative spirits their duty to human dignity." He also did research part-time on communication and displays at CBS Laboratories in Stanford. The revival of holography in the 1960s led to Gabor receiving the Royal Society's Rumford Medal in 1969 and 1971, the Nobel Prize for Physics. He lived long enough to become honorary chairman of the Museum of Holography in New York. Then he died in 1979. Now, if you look at this Museum of Holography, and you guys are going to see exactly how all this fits in to this in a second. It closed. This museum actually closed in 1992. They said that they didn't have any funding, which you have to wonder why that is. Here it is here from the New York Times, 1992. It closed, citing finances. But the museum was located at 11 Mercer Street. And Mercer Street was named after Hugh Mercer, who was born on 1/16. So, 11/1/16. Flip that number upside down, and you have the foreshadowing of what was to come and how it was done. Problem with these people is they like to brag. They like to brag about everything that they do. They can't help themselves. It's part of their sorcery, right? So what I believe was going on is this guy was right down there helping to put the final touches in technology, distance between the windows, which would be necessary to create this screen, this aluminum coated screen that would be used both to simulate flying objects as well as the final device that would destruct the entire scene. This is what I believe that these people were up to. Okay, I have the right to have that opinion based on the research that I just showed you and the very peculiar facade of these buildings, which didn't make sense to anybody at the time. Nobody liked what these buildings look like. Now you know why they may have designed them the way that they did. So I'm wondering if there was clues inside of this holographic museum. There's not a lot of information. There's almost no images of what was inside of this holographic museum that he chaired at. So here we are. Now, our discussion about this hologram theory, this is where it ends pretty much. I only mention it because it's going to tie into this decode a little bit later. But if you're interested more in the topic, I'll link in the description to the other vid that I did on this so you can get more information. But today we're going to switch gears and focus our attention on Pink Floyd, the wall film, in which children enter a school wearing masks like this one, and they march in unison through a meat grinder. becoming putty-faced clones. This all happens before they start rioting and burning down the school. The train that passes in this film has children peering out of the windows wearing these masks. Film came out in 1982, just days before Memorial Day that year. And it was 7 years before the real wall that divided the G country in Europe would come down. And you're going to notice as we go through this Memorial Day type atmosphere. It dovetails into what just happened on this Memorial Day. And I believe the key to unlocking this film lies with this actress right here, Jenny Wright. She plays an American groupie in the film. So we're gonna pull that up a little bit later in the decode. She was exactly 20 years old when the film released. Here's her Wikipedia page. Film released on March 23rd, just before Memorial Day weekend. 1962 is when she was born. She was exactly 20 years old when the film released in 82. And guess how old she is now? 58. 58 stories at Trump Tower. 58 rooms at Mar-a-Lago. Trump won the 58th presidential election. Believe it or not, I can't understand why. People like to play gotcha, so what you have to do is show them exactly this is why I'm so thorough in my work, okay? Because people play gotcha, and in their mind, they want to write all this off as coincidence, so I have to show you the proof. This was the 58th presidential election, okay? He knew he was going to win it. That's why he has 58 stories at Trump Tower and 58 rooms at Mar-a-Lago. That's why he was featured in a 1958 Western about a wall and a man named Trump. This is where I wonder if time travel is real. Now, what you're going to notice too about this film is lots of references to like fascism, okay? And they hyperbolize the threat. Now, it centers around a main character, and his name is Pink. And what he plays is a character that his name rhymes with Midler or Mittler. And we can't say that name on YouTube. But he plays like a fascist leader, right? And I believe his name is Pink because what he really represents is adrenochrome. Because you'll see all this sacrifice in the film. These masked children on trains to hell. Children walking into a meat grinder. Meat comes out pink on the other end. I believe all of this is foreshadowing for adrenochrome. So let's get started. I'm going to blow this up big. Now I'm only going to play certain segments of this. We're going to start this at 7 minutes. Here it is, Pink Floyd, The Wall. So obviously this is the exact unrest that's happening right now. And there's a wall that's being built, is there not? We've come full circle. Social unrest, invasion of rights. Look at this. The people against the police. You saw the flag there, right? Because it's all about patriotism, police brutality. Now we're going to fast forward to 12 minutes and 44 seconds because at this point you're going to see an Antichrist baptism. You're going to see this Christ theme and metaphor all throughout this, and it's not in a good way. So I've got to do this. I'm sorry that I have to keep stopping this, but the Brits are very sensitive about copyright, and if you play anything longer than a few seconds, you're going to end up in trouble. But here he is in a pool of water, arms outstretched, after he's just basically cut his hands on some glass. Now, many of you will remember the decode that we did on Omega Man with Charlton Heston, and he's laying in a fountain as he bleeds out. He tried to give his convalescent plasma to these zombies to save them, to give his own blood, his own sacrifice, right? That's an Antichrist concept. Using convalescent plasma to save the world instead of letting Christ save the world with his blood. Are you starting to see how evil this is? All of us in quarantine on our Mount Quarantine as they mock Christ. And keeping us away from each other, separated from the sick, instead of being out amongst them, which is what Christ told us to do. This is why I won't wear a face covering. I won't. Because that's just the first step in many of an Antichrist culture. And this is one of them. Using people's blood instead of the blood of Christ to save people. So obviously that theme is repeated here in the wall. And of course that's like a baptism too, right? It's an Antichrist baptism. Now, you're going to see this British flag. And this is prominent as well. We're going to fast forward to 20 minutes and 26 seconds. Got these all time stamped out. And you're going to see this British flag, and it's going to basically desecrate into a bloody cross, right? So here's the British flag, and another reason why I can't just play this through is because there's some nudity in here, so I got to be very careful. So obviously, Christ did not teach going to war and kill. He did not teach that. All right, let's be honest here with ourselves. What did Christ really represent? Every single apostle died a martyr. They did not defend their life, even though Jesus told them to go buy a sword. He wasn't talking about a real sword. Because if he was, at least one of those disciples would have tried to defend their life with a sword. But they all died martyrs. They gave their life willingly, just like Jesus did. Because they knew eternity was on the other side. And if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So, this is Antichrist mockery. When you dovetail in the concept of Christ and the cross and all of this into war and justify it by any means necessary, you are basically giving an Antichrist message. Now, let's see, let's go to 2230. You're going to see these children on this train, right? And this is basically, we all know what this is. It's another word that starts with HOLO, speaking of holograms. And so they would put these people on trains, right? And they had no identity, which is what they're trying to do to all of us by making us wear these masks. It basically desensitizes you to even more and separates you even more from your brother and sister because they have no identity. They have no face. I need to decode eyes without a face. Wow. Eyes without a face. Yeah, that needs to be decoded because it's exactly what we're dealing with right now. That was Billy Idol. So there you see all the children on the train. And there you can see their masks, the ones that I showed earlier in the show. See these masks? That's all of us right now. We've all got our masks on. Remember, what were they? They had a lot of disease in these camps, did they not? Does all this sound familiar? We saw this in the film Proximity, where they were on the train with masks on. And we saw this in The Joker, which just came out 88 days before the end of the year in 2019. We saw clown masks on a train. It's happening right now. Now let's fast forward to 38 minutes and 33 seconds. More foreshadowing of exactly what's happening right now. Across this sea. So this is the progress, right? Progress of humanity. The cities actually become our walls, and this is what I've been trying to tell you, to get through to you guys. Many of you have taken the advice. You're moving out of these cities. The city becomes your prison. It becomes your walls. You're locked into conformity. You're locked into executive orders. You're locked into rules that are easily enforceable in this urban construct. It's the easiest place for them to do whatever they want to do to you. They can't go. They don't have the manpower to go out in the suburbs and cover vast distances of land. This is why they want everyone locked in cities. Watch this. See, the buildings become the wall. Look at all the pink out there. Adrenochrome pink. Pink Floyd. Pink gray. There's the pink. There's the gray in the sky. This is our reality. There's Trump's wall, hidden behind our masks, locked in by our headdress. Address. Your address is what locks you in. The headdress of the Sphinx. Watch. See, there's our mask locked in. Let me slow this down. See if it's got a slow mode. Oh, it does not. All right. There's the barbed wire. Now, obviously, this was also talking about the European country that was divided by a wall, but we've come full circle. History is repeating itself right now, okay? Fascism, walls. There's a part in here where you'll actually see the Sphinx. Now, we talked a little bit on KJ's show about what the postmark really means. Marked by the blood of the Lamb was the very first Passover. And now they want to postmark you with your location. This is why Google always wants to know your location, right? Because this way they can pin you down, incarcerate you, contact trace you, do whatever they want by knowing your physical address, the headdress of the Sphinx. So, instead of being marked for Passover, you're being marked for death. If you buy into this construct, you need to reject it. Alright, let's get to the bottom. And there's one part in this. Well, you'll see the numbers 9 and the numbers 11 breaking out of the wall. This was long before the event, but you'll see them breaking out of the wall. I have it in the thumbnail of this live show. So there's your, the wall becomes the Sphinx, the headdress. See the wall there? Bricks and walls. Very bizarre and evil imagery. I guess I missed the part with the Sphinx, but it was there. We go to 3938, and what you're going to see here is a VC needle, and it morphs from what you'll see. I'll show you. Let's see here. See the needle there? Now people will say, "Oh, that's a drug needle." No, this is what they did in the G country. They were running experiments. Remember, this is all about that, and the wall that was built to divide that country. So this is not a drug needle in terms of someone is doing like a drug. This is a needle of experiments and the annihilation of a people. Let's play this through so you can see what this morphed from. So they don't have to use these anymore. That becomes this, right? Wish I could play this in slow motion. Okay, and then it turns into music. Because music is how, and entertainment is how they brainwash you. It's all the same. Okay. Now, let me make sure we're connected and we'll keep going with this live show. Appears as though we are. Let that catch up and then we'll keep going with this. Thanks to everybody that showed up to the show. Now let's fast forward to 3950 and you're going to see what appears to be like looting. See this? Mazda lamps reduced this week. Bargains galore. Step inside. You know, wow. Molotov cocktails. Now, 48 minutes and 46 seconds. We're going to get confirmation of this crucifixion imagery, which we looked at just before. Okay, so sorry about that brief little bit of that. Hopefully YouTube doesn't care about that. I mean, they've got naked yoga on YouTube. Come on, guys. So let's fast forward to 54 minutes and 5 seconds. And here you're going to see the wall dividing humanity, which is a metaphor, believe it or not. This wall is a metaphor for the right-left paradigm of division. If they can stick a wall between you and your brother in any way, shape, or form, not just a physical wall, a mental wall, that keeps us all under control and asleep. Alright, so now we're at 55:49. We're going to see CC. Now, what's up with Coca-Cola? Well, Coca-Cola is 33, right? Watch this. Now, this part blew me away because this, I think, is like demonic manifestation. After he smashes his room to bits, he reorganizes everything. So it's order out of chaos, right? That's exactly what this is here. He smashes his room to bits and then he tries to put it back together in his image. Order out of chaos. And look inside the television. Inside the TV, which is how every single one of us was deceived in 2001. You see CC times 2. Coca-Cola CC 33 times 2 is what? It is 66 twin colas. 19 years before it would happen. 1982 this came out. 19 years later was the year 2001. And here we are 19 years after 2001. We've come full circle in a time loop. And almost the exact same thing that happened in this film is happening now. Now here is where things get crazy, because if you look at this image here, what you will notice is that this is a pair of hexagons. You're wondering, how does the 66 fit in to the towers? It's easy. Watch. I'll draw it out for you. These are the towers. Can you see them? Here's your 66 right here. This is why Trump Tower has 66 floors. Or it doesn't have 66 floors. It has 58 floors, but his penthouse is on the 66th floor. I think he and everybody else in the know in New York knew what was really going on. There's your twins right there. Now let's keep going with this. Where are we at? 1 hour, 13 minutes, 42 seconds. Someone came on to the show the other day and was like, they tried to call this divination. Okay. Well, let me set the record straight. We are not involved in predicting the future or divination on this channel. Number 2, how do you justify filling your head with all of this entertainment media and just deciding you don't want to know what that means and accepting the sorcery without even knowing what it means, knowing that it's going to have a deleterious effect on you? That to me sounds more like divination than somebody decoding films and trying to help you to understand where the devil lives and that he's real and that everything in government is already compromised. And if you buy the lie of mainstream Christianity and believe you're just supposed to listen to your government, then you will be deceived. This is not a channel that does divination, and we are not into astrology. I want to set the record straight. Noting astronomical alignments, which is what the Bible tells us to do, there are signs in the heavens. The Mazzaroth is mentioned in the book of Job. God says he's the one that binds the belt of Orion and looses the Pleiades. Those constellations are in the book of Job, and God named them and controls them. So when you tell me not to look at an earth age because that's astrology, that's an antichrist statement, because the Bible's clear. So I wanted to set the record straight. So here we are at this next timestamp, 1 minute 13 seconds, 1 hour 13 minutes and 42 seconds. There's the dog for my pet goat. Are you seeing how it's all coming full circle? This is on the crate with the goat poking his head out. Beneath that, an iPet goat, you'll see a man holding a dog. That's because they were probably referencing this exact scene in the wall. Now, they depict this fascist, this is very obvious. They depict it as two hammers. Hammers begin with the letter H, of course, and if you have two hammers, you have HH, and that is a known symbol for what these people represent. The dictator who shall not be named. Let's go to 1 minute 14 seconds. Now this gets very disturbing as this goes on, because these people start enacting violence on people of certain groups based on their color. Okay, and this is Pink. This is him here. Okay. Here he is there, and it's obvious what the imagery is here. Now these weird cauldrons, we saw these. Remember the Olympics happened several years ago? We saw those cauldrons. We decoded them. So it's obvious what's going on here, but I don't want you to take notice. I want you to take notice of the black hats here. You're going to see these black hats in the background. That's obvious what they are. Okay. So they're flipping the script. So instead of them being white, they're black. And this is what we're dealing with now. They've flipped the color and they've reversed everything. So now you got people of color making people of non-color kiss their boots, just like the other side did. And so it's all flipped around. And for some reason, they're trying to get us all to accept this. And white privilege and all this is on the table. It's all just theater. So then this guy gets up here, Pink, and he delivers this hate-filled diatribe, right, with this stereotypical hyperbole. And then at 1 hour and 17 minutes and 33 seconds, you see every single person in the crowd with a mask on. Let's pull that up here. Now, everybody that worked on this film said that this was very hard for them to do. They said that they were traumatized and it took everything in them to put this film together. You got to ask yourself, why would the people go through such pain and sorrow? See them all in masks? That's all of us. This is what happens when you comply with what they're saying. You become part of their sorcery. This is all of us walking around right now, going to the stores, and this is. You have no face anymore. You've lost your identity because you've finally given in to the commands of your overlords. And your guard is down. It will be easier to enact certain things against your brothers and sisters because you have no identity anymore. I mean, this is what's going on right now, but in reverse. Now, I won't show this, but for those who have seen the film, you know that later this group chases down every single minority group and that they can. They start unleashing all of these pent-up frustrations. And it devolves into basically Pink cleansing the new world. 131:03. We're almost through this, you guys. Crazy. A lot of cartoons in here. I tried to look through some of the animations because there's a lot of them. Okay. Wow. We nailed it right there. I think I hit right on where I wanted to go with this. 130. Okay. Look at this. Can you see the number 9 there? Can you see these two ones poking out here? Let's pull this up full screen so you guys can maybe see this a little bit better. Now you see it. You can't make this up, you guys. That's a 9 and a 1 and a 1. Now, 19 years before it happened, it's almost like they set whatever. Of course, you see the dust happening. So this is exactly what they did. They knew what they were going to do. There's the 9 right there. There's the 2 1s come out. See them? Right there. There's the shot right there. Wow. So, everyone's so fascinated with Pink Floyd. Oh, they were trying to warn it. No, they weren't. This is part of the sorcery. They tell you what they're going to do before you do it, and when it happens, they've already fictionalized the truth. You've already lost. You're never going to convince anyone, because they're just going to simply say, you saw that in Pink Floyd The Wall 19 years before what happened. Let's go to 131:22. And here's the very last scene. You're going to see bricks. He's holding a brick. And you're going to see Molotov cocktails. This boy pulls the rag out of the Molotov cocktail, disarming it. And out of this chaos comes the order that they're going to achieve once this is all over, what we're going through right now. So that's the decode for today. We'll be back on here tomorrow with more breaking down and decoding the matrix. I don't do this for my health. I don't do it for popularity. I don't do it because it's good news all the time. I do this so that people can snap out of this scripted reality. We're going to do a show Friday on the Capitol Hill Valley area autonomous zone, because that was mentioned in Back to the Future. Back to the Future takes place in Hill Valley. And here we are full circle with that film. Time travel or time loops. What I think happens is the elite perpetrate this onto us because it has some kind of power. So they have these cycles of time, and they just keep reiterating these things cross-generationally, right? This is how they do it. So we'll be back on Friday with that. Tomorrow we have another live show, and also the day after that as well. Live shows every single morning. Let's go into the chat. And see what you guys are up to. Now, you notice I don't buy into the right-left paradigm. I'm not easily offended. I don't just automatically dislike a certain group. I don't fall into my role. It's because I'm seeing things from outside the right-left paradigm, from outside the two pillars. And you all should see things that way too. And once you do, you'll stop basically falling victim to emotion, the emotion of how these people manipulate us. All right? Now, you'll remember the scene in Back to the Future 2 where Marty... actually, we'll wait till Friday to cover that, but I just wanted you to understand that this autonomous zone and the Bikers for Trump that are saying that they're going to go over there, all of this was in the film Back to the Future. In the scene outside of Biff's Pleasure Palace. Remember all the bikers? Well, we found the logo of Bikers for Trump in that scene in a video that we did a long time ago. But we're going to recover that again on Friday. All right. This chat's going by so fast I can't even read it. Marty is Morty. Okay, read that one. Let's see. Bless you too. Chaz is now Chop. Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, Capitol Hill. That's Hill Valley from Back to the Future. Okay, remember when Marty sneaks in through the window and he's chased out by what I call Black Lives Matter? Well, those guys are enraged because they have these power lines. That's 5G whiz. Marty then goes to the Pleasure Palace and he's hanging out with the bikers, and none of the bikers bother him. That's part of the right-left paradigm. That's exactly what they wanted to portray, which is happening almost exactly right now. All scripted. Jesus spoke to dead men, trees, and weather, and they obeyed him. Yes, you're absolutely right. Someone asked me, why don't you talk about the gospel? We talk about the gospel every single time we're on this channel. the believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. We just don't put it in the exact words that you are accustomed to hearing in the Bible and the Scripture. But we talk about the gospel every single day. See, this is where the Christian paradigm can lead you astray, because you are thinking in terms of finite things. You're thinking in terms of it has to be spoken and said exactly the way and what order, and every single point has to be covered. We cover every single point. We just don't say it all in one sentence. We're not robots. Jesus didn't make us to be robots and be programmed. He made us to have a brain and to help draw people to him through talking about exactly what he taught. We were just talking about this on KJ's show. I was talking about the gospel. Following Jesus' example is part of the gospel. And every single time an issue or subject came up, I said, what would Jesus do? That's the gospel, or part of it. So don't get hung up on dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. That's what the devil wants. Devil's in the details. He'll talk you right out of believing in Jesus if that's the way your mind thinks. He'll talk you right out of the people that are for Jesus if that's the way your mind thinks, because the devil will do that. And everyone on this channel knows that we talk about the gospel over and over again every single time, but we do it in a way that's palatable for the people that normally you wouldn't be able to reach by standing like a robot in front of them and reading off scriptures that they've heard already 100 times. We do it in a way we show them. We show you how Christ is being mocked. Look, why would they keep mocking Christ in these scenes that I just showed you if he wasn't real? You have to show people that, because otherwise it just drowns out in the background. It becomes monotone. Are you saved? No, I'm not saved. Would you like to be saved today? All you have to do, okay, when you do that over and over again, it takes away the power of what Jesus was really trying to show you. Yes, you need to be saved, and that moment needs to come. But when that moment comes, you will feel him. It won't be 9 times out of 10 someone standing in front of you. Look, I was baptized twice before it really meant anything. Because when I did it, it was because someone tried to talk me into it or guilt me into it. The true baptism, and you do need to be physically baptized as well, but the true baptism comes in the Spirit when Christ washes over you. And that dovetails in with your previous experiences with being immersed in water. Then you become immersed in the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. And that is when you truly, Christ enters your life and you're touched. And you begin to make changes, and he works with you to help sanctify your spirit. So, sorry about all that. I just had to explain further. It's tough going on other channels. As much as I appreciate what KJ did for me and has done for me many, many times in the past, I've been on a lot of his shows. It's very tough on a panel of people because some of the stuff that we talk about is more cutting edge. And if I just throw out one statement like I did about the Earth Ages following the Bible, automatically in the chat I'm reading people say, that's astrology. And I don't have a chance to defend myself because you've got several personalities on one panel and you just don't get a chance to fully flesh out those objections. So this is, people ask me, why don't you go on shows? You guys, the information on this channel, I hate to say it, but it's just, sometimes we just need to have our own kind of place to be, all right? And then people can come and go as they want. They can get mad. I've had people get mad at me and then come back 5 years later and say, you were right. Or you changed my life. You finally knocked down the wall to my spirit, and I was able to finally believe in Jesus. I just saw too many times where mainstream media was mocking him, the elite were mocking him, entertainment media is mocking him, and I finally get it now. And so I don't know how many other shows I'll do with other people. I'm hoping I can just get on with KJ, just me and him alone, and then we'd have some time to kind of flush all this out. So, all right, what else do we have here? Yeah, KJ's scariest movie ever. I tried Trumpy Girl, but I felt like I lost some people, so I tried. All I can do is the best I can. It's a lot of pressure. I was on there at night, which is normally my bedtime. I'm not sharp in the evenings. I'm only sharp typically in the mornings, like on these live shows after having my coffee and ready to face the world. But I did the best that I could, and I appreciate all of you that showed your support over there. And I don't want people to take this wrong. This isn't any type of criticism whatsoever. It's probably more me than anything, because I just don't do well on panels. This has just always been the way I've been. Just the way I am. Unless I'm one-on-one with somebody and I've got time to talk. I don't have a very strong personality, and I can't really compete with voices that are with voices. We'll just say that. Yeah, I'm old, Adam. Yep. All right. Yeah, I think we all do need to be less fussy. We could all eat some humble pie, myself included, often. I know I'm not perfect. All right. Thanks, DJ. Thanks, Trumpy Girl. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. We're going to go ahead and end the show here. Unless you guys have any other questions. Maybe I'll open up for about 5 minutes to see if there's any other questions that you guys have before we end the show, instead of just me doing all the talking. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Scott. He's probably talking about the scene in Back to the Future 2. Yep, it's all happening now. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions, so you guys have a great day. See you tomorrow bright and early. Take care and be safe, everybody.